I'm Heather from the Sewing Loft, and one of my favorite things to do is share easy tips to help make you a better sewer. On the market today are many different fabrics, but one that I really like is oilcloth. Many people tend to overlook it because they're not sure exactly how to work with it. You can use it for many different types of projects, from lunch boxes to tote bags. But today we're going to use it on a larger scale. We're going to make a picnic blanket. It's perfect to keep in the back of your car, bring out to a ball game, or bring to the park. Since it's kind of large, we're going to work on a smaller scale, so bring your imagination and let's get to work. To help you be successful with working with this fabric, we want to play to its characteristics. We're going to use a Teflon foot, which will help glide our fabric along. Since pins are not great with this fabric, we're going to use these special clips that are going to help keep everything together. And a jeans needle will come right in handy because it'll pierce through the fabric very easily. Because the project is so large, I've scaled it down to make it easier for sewing. We're going to start off by marking off our batting. You can see I've already outlined my pattern. You're going to take your pre-cut strips and line them out in your pattern. Now you may be wondering why I have a line across the center and my strips go straight across. We're actually going to sew these directly on and flip them each way as we go. Then we're going to come back later and cut it off. This is going to help us have a nice smooth line and keep everything pretty. You've probably noticed that I've changed my presser foot out to a Teflon foot. This is the best foot to work with this type of fabric. It will help prevent any extra grabbing or sticking. You're going to load your fabric in the machine and actually start at your angle mark. Give it one quick back stitch and go right down. Stopping at your next line. Take your next color, line it right up. We're going to sandwich it right on top and stitch again, starting right from this line and straight down. Now normally I would tell you to flip it over and press this, but because this fabric has a coating on it, it'll melt with a hot iron. So let's fold it over and give it a good crease with our finger and continue to add our strips. After you've got them all stitched in place, we're going to go over to the cutting mat and cut away the excess. Now that we're over at the cutting mat, you can see that the strips are really long, and you may be wondering why we didn't just cut these on an angle. Well, this is actually a time saver. This way, you stitch them all once, flip it over, and we're going to cut it, and they're all going to be perfect. Let me show you how that's done. We're going to flip it over and fold our batting back to that original diagonal line. So now you can see the blue line that we originally drew. Grab your ruler and line it up right against that line and your rotary cutter and just cut it. Now all your pieces are perfect and ready for the next step. To make things lay nicely, I'm going to add some top stitching. Let me show you how that's done. Since we're doing top stitching detail, don't forget to increase your stitch length. Now that we've got our strips in place, we're going to continue adding. You can see I've already started. I've added my corner triangle and 2 of my borders. You're going to continue all the way around, just adding, stitching, and flipping. You probably noticed that I've been using my presser foot as a guide. Since they're even from side to side, I just line the edge of my seam up to the edge of the foot and stitch my top stitching. It doesn't matter which direction I'm sewing from. After you've got all the pieces stitched down, we're going to want to go back and true up all of our corners. So if you see any piece that's a little bit off, don't worry about it. We're going to take care of it at the cutting table. If you're making the full-size project, I want to give you a quick tip. This fabric is bulky and heavy, so you may want to bring your machine out to a larger workspace, like your kitchen table. This way, as you add all of your pieces together, it'll have the full support of the table and you can lay it out flat. Now, let's head on over to the cutting mat and cut up our corners. This is the perfect time for you to pull out any of the square rulers that you may have in your studio. You can line it up right against the corner of one side, and you can see we're going to trim right away this little missing piece of fabric. Grab your rotary cutter and cut away. Shift your piece around and repeat the process on all four corners. Now that you've got your piece trued up and cornered, it's time to add our backer. Before we get to our next step, I want to talk to you about my backer fabric. I chose knit. I love it because it's soft and has a great hand feel, but you're welcome to choose any fabric you like. Remember in the beginning I told you that we weren't going to use pins? Well, you might be wondering how I'm going to get this little sandwich to stick together. I'm going to use these Wonder Clips. They're great. All you have to do is clip them on and go. So let's attach it all the way around with our right sides of fabric together. And then we'll be ready to sew around the four corners, leaving an opening for turning. You'll notice that I've changed the setup of my machine. I've attached a walking foot. This is to help with all the bulkiness of the fabric. The foot has an extra set of feed dogs that'll help pass the fabric smoothly through the machine. Both the top and bottom layers will evenly pass at the same time. They're totally worth it and I highly recommend them. Let's get started. Whenever I do a project that needs an opening for turning, I always make sure I add a back stitch at the start and stop. So don't forget to add yours. Be sure to stop at the corner with your needle in the down position and pivot. Now, we're working with a really small piece, but yours is going to be much larger, and you can see that it's kind of falling off the table here. You're going to roll yours up to keep everything together. It'll make it easier for you to work with, and if it's really big, you might even toss it over your shoulder. I want to give you another quick tip. You'll notice that my knit is on the bottom. That's because my top fabric is already stabilized by the batting and the knit tends to shift. But the feed dogs on the bottom will give it an extra little bit of support and help gently glide the fabric in place. Now that we've got our pieces stitched together, we're just going to clip our corners and turn it right side out. Use your fingers to turn out each corner. You may have to push the pieces together and kind of roll it with your fingers, or you can even use a point turner. Then you're going to want to take it and lay it down on the table and just really run your fingers over each seam to get it flat and compressed as much as you possibly can. Otherwise, it's going to tend to roll. You can see that it's kind of rolling. I'm going to add my clips back to the top just to kind of keep everything together and prevent it from shifting when I go right back around and add a layer of top stitching. At the opening, you're just going to fold your seam allowance in and use your clips a little closer to the edge to make sure everything lines up. Then you're going to head on over to the machine, close up your opening, and add a row of top stitching all the way around. After you've closed up your seam, let's do one quick pass around to make sure that the back and the front stay joined. Now, you might recall in the beginning of the setup, we changed out our needle and added it to a jeans needle. This needle has a sharper point and will allow it to pierce through the fabric much easier. Just go all the way around like you did before, and then you're all done. And that's it! You added your top stitching and you're all good to go. Please just remember that this is a small scale sample, but your top stitching will not overlap like this. I really hope you enjoyed experimenting with new feet today and look forward to our next project. Hope to see you soon.